You're driving down a quiet forest road in Olympic National Park, and you spot an abandoned bike with camping gear spread out on a tarp. 4 arrows are mysteriously stuck in the ground in a perfect east-west line. The person who left them? Gone without a trace. This is exactly what happened on April 6, 2017, and it kicked off one of the most puzzling unsolved cases in recent memory. What's up, everyone? Today we're diving deep into the strange disappearance of Jacob Gray, a case that'll make you question everything you think you know about disappearances in our national parks. Trust me, this one's got more twists than a mountain trail, and by the end, you'll understand why this case still haunts investigators and his family to this day. Let me introduce you to Jacob Gray. He was 22 years old, originally from Santa Cruz, California, your typical California beach kid who loved surfing and the outdoors. Standing at 5 feet 11 inches, Jacob was athletic, a strong swimmer, and honestly, not the type of guy you'd expect to just vanish into thin air. Now here's where things get interesting. Jacob had been living with his grandmother in Port Townsend, Washington, and he was planning this epic cross-country bike tour. His plan? Ride from Washington all the way to Vermont to visit his older brother Micah, who was stationed there with the Coast Guard. He figured it might take him 2 years, working odd jobs along the way. Pretty ambitious, right? But here's the thing. Jacob had been going through a difficult time. His parents had divorced 4 years earlier, and his mom described him as facing some challenges transitioning into adulthood. The divorce hits him hard, and he'd lost the beloved family home he grew up in. A cross-country bike tour seemed like his way of finding himself. Sometimes we all need that journey to figure out who we are. So Jacob's getting ready for this massive adventure. He's got this red, specialized hard rock bike. It was actually too small for him. His dad, Randy, had won it in a raffle at a contractor's show. Jacob, being the handy guy he was, had fashioned a plywood rack and bolted milk crates to it. He was towing a yellow and red Burley Child trailer loaded with everything you could imagine. Camping gear, a Bible, bow and arrows, mountain house meals, even crampons for alpine climbing. The whole setup, bike, trailer, and gear, weighed more than Jacob's 145-pound frame. This kid was committed. Here's where the story takes its first strange turn. On the night of April 4th, 2017, Jacob set off quietly. No big announcement, no detailed itinerary, not even a heads up to his grandmother who he was living with. He just lit out into the headwind and rain, heading west. But wait, didn't I just say he was planning to go east to Vermont? Yeah, that's the first red flag. Why would someone planning a cross-country trip to the East Coast head west into the Olympic Peninsula? His family thought maybe it was a test run to try out his gear, but honestly, nobody knows for sure. The next morning, April 5th, there were a few credible sightings of Jacob. Someone saw him along Crescent Lake. A woman spotted him climbing Fairholme Hill at 1 a.m. Imagine seeing a guy towing a trailer up a hill in the dead of night. Later that same day, another woman passed Jacob as he was grinding up Salduck Hot Springs Road, about 2 miles from Highway 101. But here's the twist. That same woman, when she came back down the mountain that afternoon, noticed Jacob's bike and trailer sitting by the side of the road. She was curious enough to snap a photo of what she called a flash of red and yellow against the green of the forest. The bike was parked 6.3 miles up from Highway 101, maybe 20 feet from the Salduck River. It wasn't a good camping spot. Too visible, too close to the road. And here's what really gets me. There was camping gear spread out on a tarp like someone had been organizing it, and 4 arrows stuck in the ground in a perfect east-west line. What do you make of those arrows? Was it some kind of signal? The marker for someone? Or just Jacob being Jacob? Now here's something that may surprise you. Jacob wasn't immediately reported as missing. Because he was an adult and had left voluntarily, there was initially no official search initiated. The Rangers only became concerned because the bike remained untouched for over a day. Ranger John Bowie checked the area on April 6th, thinking Jacob might have gone to the river nearby and encountered some kind of mishap in the cold conditions. The water was frigid. Anyone falling in would have had very little time before exposure became dangerous. When Rangers examined the scene, everything seemed normal. The bike was functional, tires weren't flat, no signs of struggle. Most of his gear was there. From Jacob's belongings, they found a phone number list and called it his sister Mallory, who then urged them to contact their parents immediately. This is where things get really frustrating. When Randy Gray, Jacob's father, got the call, he dropped everything. He threw his wetsuit in his truck and drove the 1,000 miles from Santa Cruz to Washington, driving straight through. The man was so frantic he got pulled over doing 100 miles per hour in Oregon. The officer let him go after hearing the situation. But here's the difficult part. By the time Randy arrived 5 days later, there had been no formal search launched. 5 days. In search and rescue, time is everything. The Olympic National Park was understaffed due to budget cuts and already dealing with other emergencies at the time. Randy and his daughter Mallory entered the freezing river themselves to search. Imagine the determinations it takes, not knowing what you'll find, but pushing forward anyway. Randy even suffered painful foot injuries from staying in wet socks for days, but he never complained. The family demanded more intensive searching, but the official response was what they called a passive search. More resources would only be allocated if new information emerged. Meanwhile, Randy was essentially moving heaven and earth to find his son. He sold the family home in Santa Cruz, bought a diesel truck and camper, and spent the next 16 months living on the road, searching everywhere from the San Juan Islands to British Columbia. According to GPS tracks, he covered over 730 miles of terrain. He'd suit up in his wetsuit and literally boogie board down rivers, checking every pool and cave. Then, on August 10th, 2018, 16 months after Jacob disappeared, a team of biologists came across evidence confirming Jacob's location. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. He was found near the top of a ridge above Hoh Lake, 5,300 feet above sea level and at least 15 miles from where he left his bike. Think about that for a second. 15 miles from his bike, up a mountain in terrain that would have been snowy and avalanche-prone in April. The exact circumstances of his passing were never confirmed, though cold weather was likely a major factor. So what really happened to Jacob Gray? The questions that still puzzle his family and investigators include, why did he say he was going east of Vermont, then head west without telling anyone? Why leave his bike in such a visible spot with gear spread out? What was the meaning behind the 4 arrows stuck in the ground? And here's the big one. Why abandon a carefully prepared bike setup, only to hike into risky mountain terrain in unpredictable conditions? One search and rescue expert noted something curious. Children will often go up, so will people on a vision quest. Depending on what message they get from God, I've seen people climb mountains. Was Jacob on a spiritual journey? His family mentioned he'd been seeking answers in the Bible and reflecting deeply on the world. Maybe this wasn't about getting to Vermont. Maybe it was about something more personal. Jacob Gray's story is a reminder that sometimes, nature keeps its secrets. Despite his father's tireless search and the eventual discovery of Jacob's location, we may never fully understand what drove him to leave his bike that April day and climb into the Olympic Mountains. What do you think happened to Jacob? Was this an unexpected accident, a personal journey that took a dangerous turn, or something else entirely? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this case intrigued you, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more mysterious disappearances. Until next time, stay safe out there.